There's four specific teams I am mostly interested in going into the next season. There's my New England Patriots, the New Orleans Saints, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the San Francisco 49ers. Let's start with the Patriots, shall we? We are currently, don't know who the starter is going to be. My belief is probably going to be Hoyer, then Stidham, but let that go. Who knows, maybe I'll be wrong. But anyway, it's going to be very weird to see someone other than Mr. Tom Brady at center. But it's what we got to get used to. I mean, players move on, teams move on. At the end of the day, football is business. But I hope that we'll still be competitive. We definitely have a tough schedule coming up. But I hope we'll still be competitive. I hope the defense will still be competitive. But everyone's going to be gunning for us because one thing, everyone hates us because everyone thinks we're cheaters. Everyone thinks that we're degenerates. I could go on and on. But I think the Patriots will remain strong and will have a decent season. Not a great season, but I still think a decent season. And from a coaching standpoint, Belichick has got to prove all those all those doubters wrong. He's got to prove to them why he was successful and that he can be successful without Brady, and his system is the best in football. I'm thinking they're probably going to go 10-6 and maybe make a wild card and go from there. But they'll be definitely an interesting team to watch with so many names gone in free agency and such little move in free agency. So it looks like they'll probably make a lot of moves in the draft. Next up, the 49ers. I think the 49ers have been unfairly criticized, and I think a lot of people have been unfair to Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy had a great season, by all accounts. He showed that he can be a starting NFL quarterback, and he showed that he can win in the playoffs. Granted, he did lose the Super Bowl, but hey, teams have lost the Super Bowl before, okay? I think people should really sit down and shut up and let this guy play, because they built the team around him, and he's their guy. So please shut up and leave the guy alone. So it's going to be interesting how they're going to follow up their Super Bowl loss. I think they're going to make another run. I think they'll probably make the playoffs and win their division. What happens is in the playoffs, who knows? But they definitely have a strong running game and a strong wide receiving core going into next season. They still have a great offensive line led by Joe Stanley. So it will be good to see what happens with them. And it will be good to see how Shanahan handles the pressure of the so-called Super Bowl hangover. Next up is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, now defending Super Bowl champions for the first time in 50 years, have done a lot. No, not a lot, but in terms of keeping the team together, they kept Demarcus Robinson. They are in contract negotiations with Patrick Mahomes for the coming time where they're going to need to negotiate his contract. They mostly have kept the core together, by all accounts, and they're going to try to gun for another Super Bowl. And we've already seen that now Andy Reid, no matter what happens now, Andy Reid will be in the Hall of Fame because he finally has that freaking ring. But technically he already won a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers when he was an assistant coach there. But he's finally proved that he can win a Super Bowl as a head coach. Can they back up their Super Bowl run? I think they could. With the kind of talent they have, with the kind of defense they have, they can definitely. They're still a force to be reckoned with by any means. Now, the New Orleans Saints. You would probably be thinking, why is he talking about the New Orleans Saints? Well, they really have a chip on their shoulder. First, they lose to Minnesota in the divisional round. Then they lose to the Los Angeles Rams in very iconic fashion when the refs missed a blatant, and I mean a blatant, passer interference call, and then then the Saints create such an uproar. They had them create the new rule we could videotape challenge with videotape passer interference, but that was a complete and utter joke. The NFL would just throw it out the window and wouldn't change any rulings. If they did, it was, I think, in the realm of 2 to 8% of time they would get changed over. But the New Orleans Saints definitely do have a chip on their shoulders. They re-signed Breeze to a $50 million contract over the next 2 years, but he's looking like he's probably going to play past that. But who knows? Maybe if he wins a Super Bowl, he'll finally retire. They added the still extremely talented Emmanuel Sanders on a 2-year contract. So they're looking to just load that gun back up and start smashing through the NFL. Can they make a Super Bowl run? Yes, they can. But they really have to minimize on mistakes. I mean, every year in the past few years, there's been some kind of a mistake. Whether it be Marcus Williams diving instead of tackling, the defense just absolutely capitulating and just letting Kirk Cousins eat them up. Whether it be Drew Brees throwing that infamous... Actually, not as much infamous. Everyone forgets that they had the ball first in the NFC Championship game in overtime, but then Brees threw that interception. So they really have to minimize on the mistakes. They can have a great regular season, but if they don't do anything in the playoffs, it's really a failure. So they really need to do something to cement some legacies. So Brees will be able to be talked about in the top 4 or top 2 quarterbacks of all time, which he probably is by all accounts. So that's the season they're looking to have, and hopefully they'll have a good one.